Corepunk has been covered pretty extensively on my channel, so when they reached out and asked to sponsor today's video, I wondered why. I've pretty much covered everything I needed to about the game. Surely some things have changed and it functions relatively the same, and oh boy, I was wrong. So thanks again to Corepunk for sponsoring today's video. Now let me show you how they've taken a ton of the feedback from the community and actualized it in the game in less than 6 months. So first of all, what is Corepunk? Well, it's a new buy-to-play MMO that was released as early access last November. It's set in a steampunk-themed world with a focus on MOBA elements. For example, each class only has a few abilities with pretty long cooldowns, so it's important for you to be wary of the most opportune moment to actually use said abilities. Furthermore, Corepunk features a PvP system where certain areas are more risky and more dangerous than others. However, the reward is also greater. And crafting and gathering also makes up a large portion of the gameplay. And in my last few videos, what I would have mentioned at this point is the fact that Corepunk is a no-hands-holding OG MMO that doesn't give you a ton of information. And it basically sets you off into the world in a way that, honestly, might have been a little too hardcore. But I'm very happy to announce that Corepunk has officially made the user experience a little bit easier. With a ton of quality of life features, from tooltips to maps to information to regeneration, we're gonna get into all of it. And I can't wait to show you guys why this is exactly what Corepunk needed to do moving forward. It's pretty rare these days that you see developers listen and react to their player base's requests, and so quickly as well. I'm genuinely pretty excited, so let's get into some of the changes. So to start things off, Corepunk added a brand new playable class, the Defender, which added a tank-focused specialization to the champion class that was not previously available during other stages of early access. This basically added a full, robust tanking option to Corepunk, and it introduced a ton of new mechanics like damage reflection, taunting, and ally protection that were not as prominent in other tanking-focused classes. I think they hope that this is going to allow for better group dynamics, as they're obviously pushing towards more structured PvE and PvP content. Now, the actual character customization remains relatively the same, but I did manage to have some fun with it. Alright, let's see if that works. DJ Pauly D. Beautiful. The intro to the game looks relatively the same, as well as the user interface, and as always, you have to pick one of your 3 abilities to specialize into first. I chose Champion Strike, which does a bit of damage and grants you a couple of useful buffs. But then afterwards, I opened up my world map. I guess they got rid of the Fog of War mechanic where you couldn't see your map. Now you can see everything. Interesting. I think the Fog of War was a pretty cool idea, but it did leave you feeling a little lost, especially in a game that the quests don't always necessarily give you all the information you needed to figure out where you needed to go. One important thing to note is that the Fog of War mechanic in the actual game still functions the same way, so it's still very much possible to sneak up on people in PvP. But overall, I think this is a fantastic change, as it just allows new players to understand where they are and get a grip on their surroundings a little bit sooner. Furthermore, next, I clicked on what is known as the craft map, which is essentially a giant, really nicely done user interface that explains to you all the intricacies of crafting and what items can be processed into other items, which can then be crafted. Considering a ton of the first quests within the game actually require a bunch of crafting, this is another huge help for new players. And honestly, even long-term players will probably be coming back to this map all the time for reference. Whoa, interesting. This area actually looks a little bit different. It looks like there's a bit more verticality to it. I don't think this was a hill before. It was just a straight path. But now you kind of walk down this hill. I should probably actually get the first quest. Yeah, it definitely looks like they've spruced up the starting area. It's got a lot more verticality, a lot more detail to it. Like this waterfall area, I don't believe was there before. So afterwards, I got myself into a bit of combat with these 3 rats. It kind of feels like the aggro radius was increased just a little bit. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I definitely didn't think I could take on all 3 of them. However, the Defender class shines, and it came through, and I was able to take them out. And it was around this moment that I realized my health was going up. Dude, they're doing everything that everyone has asked. No way. Oh, that's so good. One of the biggest problems with Corepunk, in my opinion, was having no health regeneration, but now it's still slow, but it's going up. That's so good. Let me take a look at a bit more of the interface and see what we're working with. This is new. Oh, it looks like a cosmetic sort of page. Oh, you can change your heads-up display. It looks like they're going to have different heads-up displays that you can actually put on. That's kind of cool. Different themes and things like that. Wow, no way. Okay. So this Prison Island PvE is one of the new dungeons. So this dungeon was actually one of the main focuses of the most recent update on April 4th, 2025. The Prison Island dungeon, known as the Extraction dungeon, is a high-risk, high-reward dungeon featuring a full loot system where players risk losing all of their gear and their inventory if they die. It's available in both a PvP and a PvE format, so it's pretty intense. It uses a one-life mechanic where players have to navigate through the dungeon, defeating monsters and bosses for valuable loot, and then you have to escape through one of 6 exits. If you fail to escape from the dungeon in 45 minutes, that results in death and the total loss of all your items. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to play enough to get to level 20 and try it myself, but I'm definitely looking forward to trying it in the future. On top of all of this, another update in April included the addition of a marketplace, which is accessible from your user interface at any time. The currency used within the auction house are ancient coins, which drop from pretty much most content in the game. And you can also acquire them through selling your own items on the auction house. I'm not sure why they chose to go with ancient coins instead of just using gold, however, it might be due to early access reasons, as ancient coins might be easier to track than actual gold. Either way, this is sure to incentivize lots more player trading, which is always good for a game and its economy. Anyway, I continued playing and leveling my defender. I grabbed all the quests in town and made my way into the forest. Some of the first few quests require a ton of gathering and crafting. And luckily, it seems like they have massively increased the spawn rate of the majority of gathering nodes. I remember in some of my earlier playthroughs, it was an absolute slog to find these things. However, now they're basically all over the place. Also, combat itself seemed to be much more manageable than I previously remembered. I'm not sure if that's just because the defender class is that tanky, but being able to take on multiple monsters of a higher level was not necessarily feasible in the early game when I played before. I mean, a little while later during this playthrough, I took on like 10 boars at the same time, which was just ridiculous. That's crazy, this class is so overpowered. As if I just did that, I just took out like 10 of them. That would have been impossible in any other version of Corepunk that I've played. That is crazy. The quests around Goldenfield Town and the starting area all remain pretty much the same, but due to the additions on the map, which tell you exactly where you need to go, I found it to be a much more pleasant experience leveling through Corepunk. I think Corepunk in its current form is a great case study of where to draw the line when it comes to maintaining some of the old school MMO philosophy, while also allowing for some adjustments that just further the new player experience. Before, what was tedious is now much easier, and before what felt confusing is now a bit better explained, without taking anything away from the core experience, pun intended. It feels like they've somehow forged a new identity for themselves while very much maintaining their original identity. Anyway, you guys can actually join me in the early access and play alongside me by using the link featured both in the description as well as the pinned comment. I'm genuinely so excited for this game's future, and now just seeing the results and seeing basically every bit of community feedback either get addressed or just outright fixed, I have very high expectations for what Corepunk might look like come its full release. Anyway, folks, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who made it to the end of the video, as well as Corepunk again for sponsoring this one. Don't forget to use my link as it helps me bring more content to all of you in the future. But anyways, I will catch you all in the next one. Later.